Hello, my name is Edward Collins, and I'm going to be explaining the cellular respiration and photosynthesis for my project. Photosynthesis is unique to plant cells as they are a type of eukaryotic cells which has chloroplast. Photosynthesis happens in the thylakoid, where chlorophyll absorbs light and light is dividing the water bonds into hydrogen, oxygen, and electrons. This is called the light reaction. Oxygen is then released and hydrogen and electrons head to the stroma to partake in the Calvin cycle. The Calvin cycle happens in the stroma. CO2 enters the cycle and bonds with RUBP. This RUBP is then broken down into glucose, which gives 2 ATP. The remaining parts of the RUBP goes back into the cycle to be rebuilt into RUBP. This process uses ATP to make a network of 2 ATP in total. The Calvin cycle is run 2 times, as the glucose made to it is G3P, but glucose is G6P, so the Calvin cycle runs 2 times to make a 6-carbon bond. This process also happens to make the chlorophyll green due to the chlorophyll absorbing green light. Cellular respiration. Glucose is broken down into 2 different types of paths, all depending if there's oxygen available. If there is no oxygen available, it will undergo fermentation. We have 2 different types of fermentation available. Lactic acid fermentation is one of them, as well as alcoholic fermentation. If there is oxygen provided though, the glucose will break into 2 pyruvates, and the oxygen bonds around it, if there's oxygen around it, the oxygen will bond to the pyruvate so it may enter the mitochondria matrix. It does this as pyruvate is deadly to life. The Krebs cycle happens in the matrix of the mitochondria. Oxygen brings pyruvates made from the Calvin cycle into the matrix. Oxygenates accepts with the help of enzyme Xyl CoA. The pyruvate is then broken down into CO2 and is rebuilt. Oxidative phosphorylation is also known as electron transport chain, happens in the inner membrane. The electrons dropped off into the electron transport chain from the Krebs cycle from earlier and cycle by NADH and FADH2. These 2 are known as electron transporters. The hydrogens from the Krebs cycles go to the ATP synthesis and converts ADP into ATP. This makes about 32 to 34 ATPs. At the end of this process, oxygen accepts the electrons and hydrogen and bonds to become H2O, water. Throughout this process, 2 ATPs are produced throughout the Krebs cycle. Electrons and hydrogens are released as well.